So, hi Kartik. Uh, would you like to briefly introduce yourself and what you are doing now?
Sure. So I'm Karteek. I'm a first year graduate student in the electrical engineering option at Caltech. And I work on photoacoustic tomography, which is a kind of medical imaging technique. Yep. So that's it.
So, can you give a brief idea about your undergrad research experience and uh, how your journey was up to till the point of deciding that you'd be applying for grad school?
Sure. So I did my undergrad in IIT Madras. Uh, and I was actually in a dual degree program. So a 5 year BTech plus MTech program. And I did have initial leanings towards research because I had other people in my family choosing that as their career path. But I was still flexible. I was still open to joining industry. Uh, but then in my third year, in the summer after my third year, I worked. Didn't quite enjoy the experience. I thought that I could carve a niche for myself in research, and that's why I sort of did that later on. As for research experience, I joined a particular research group in IIT Madras quite early. It so happened that there was a new faculty in our department, Professor Uday Kanpur, and he gave us a presentation right after one of our courses. Uh, and I really enjoyed the presentation, and I just spoke to him, and he said, "Yeah, you can join me on a problem that I'm working on." As it turns out, over the next 1.5 year, we worked on that problem, and that didn't really result in anything. But uh, we went on to work on a separate problem after that, which gave a lot of results, and that's sort of responsible for getting me a good PhD admit and so on.
You said that you had this dilemma about research versus job. So, how did you exactly solve this? You said you applied for an industry intern, and you also had some research experience. So now, I think this question many people have, that once you have both this experience, then how do you take a decision whether to go for research or job?
Right. So I can only speak for myself,
Mhm.
but I felt that at least in electrical engineering, there were like most of the jobs that I saw, like uh, were not as exciting as I thought they would be, and I kind of felt like uh, I would I would lose my uniqueness in such a role, and I would not be able to contribute too much as an individual.
Mhm. Okay,
I
sounds
may be
very
wrong.
philosophical.
I'm sorry.
Sounds very deep. Yeah.
Yeah, I may be wrong. I may not have looked at the right opportunities,
Yeah,
but
it's a
at the time,
personal experience. Yeah.
yeah, at the time, that's what I felt. And I personally had a bias that I wanted to do research because, as I said, in my family,
Mhm.
there were other people who were doing research.
Mhm.
So that bias plus this experience led me to
Yeah.
pursue a PhD.
Actually, everyone I have talked to so far for this interviews, everyone has
Hmm.
done both research intern and job intern. So, would you also like suggest that one should try out both before deciding? Uh,
Yeah, it makes sense to try both, unless you're super clear about what you want to do. Like if you're super clear that you want to do research and are not at all interested in industry, that's another story.
mhm. Okay. So now coming into the grad school application process. So, could you like give a brief outline about when did you start actually preparing for it, and when should one start preparing, and what are the steps in a very rough manner?
Sure. Uh, so if you want to start your grad school in September 2021, your applications would be due December 2020. And first, let's talk about what are the different things that go into the application process.
Mhm.
First are the test scores, which are GRE and TOEFL in most cases. And then once that is done, you sort of shortlist your universities and your groups. And once you have done that, you think about, how do you, you prepare your statement of purpose. and your CV, and that's pretty much it. And then you just apply. Out of all these steps, I think the least important step is the first step where you write your standardized test. Uh, I mean, honestly, if you're focusing on like uh, you know the some of the best universities in the world, I don't really think GRE and TOEFL are the things that you should be focusing on. These are the things that you want to just get out of your way as soon as possible. They're just like requirements for the process.
So how important are GRE or TOEFL scores in electrical engineering specifically?
I think in GRE you're expected to get like full or almost full in quant, because as engineers that's what, like, it's high school math. As engineers you're supposed to do that. And in verbal, I would say anything above 165. No, sorry, 155 should be good enough. So 325 plus is good enough in my opinion. Yeah, but one more thing I just want to say is the entire application process is a huge black box. Nobody, like literally nobody knows anything about it. Everyone just makes speculations. So if you want like some real advice from me, I would just say there are like 3 or 4 steps in the process. Just put your best foot forward in each and every step, so that later on you don't look back and say, oh, I could have done that better. So that's what I would say. But having said that, GRE and TOEFL are the least important steps in the whole process.
Yeah, I think slowly they are like their importance is decreasing, and also I think because of COVID, maybe we are moving on a path where they might just go away, hopefully.
Yeah, honestly, when I was writing the test, I didn't realize what the point of the test was.
Yeah, exactly.
I just gave it because it was a requirement. And once that is done, I would say the next important part, and something that a lot of people gloss over, is really introspecting and trying to figure out what you want to do ahead. Because if that is not clear, you will not be clear about which universities or groups to apply to. You will not be clear about how to write your recipe. So that part, I think I spent like it was in my mind for 1 year, but I spent a solid 1 month thinking about what sort of work I want to do ahead.
Like what was that process like? Like, did you look over different research groups, their work, or?
Well, how it happened with me was it was kind of fortune also in some way, because like I was working on electromagnetic inverse imaging, which and I was mostly doing like computational work at the time on inverse imaging, and around that period of time, some things happened in my life which made me feel that I really should contribute to healthcare in some way. Like in the long term, I felt that healthcare is something that can be improved not just in India but everywhere in the world, and there are a lot of people who can be impacted through this field.
Yeah, right.
And I started looking at ways in which I can start working in healthcare, and that's how I stumbled upon medical imaging.
Okay.
Which is basically inverse imaging in a medical setting. And once I was kind of sure that I wanted to do medical imaging in the future, I started looking at groups which are doing medical imaging, and that's how I stumbled upon these groups.
Okay. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Not many people just apply based on top people or in universities, or just look up randomly. But
no, that's good as well. That's what I was planning to do, but then just a series of incidents led up to this. And once you have decided what you want to do, the rest of it just follows. You spend a good deal of time researching groups in different universities and choosing the best group for you, and shortlisting universities, and then you spend some time on writing your SOP, obviously. And in my case, actually, I did something in between which really helped me. I applied for this one scholarship called Knight Hennessy Scholarship, which is at Stanford, where they select sort of a group of people and they mentor them. But that particular application requires you to answer a questionnaire, and that questionnaire really helped me refine my thought process.
Okay. So is this mentorship for preparing your application?
No, it's a fellowship sort of a thing. So people who are selected into Stanford, a few of them become Knight Hennessy fellows, and then they are taken into
Okay.
sort of a leadership training program or something like that.
Okay. So this is like if you are selected in Stanford, then they fund you this way.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
They fund you, and then they organize all sorts of events for you
Okay.
to build your skills. But irrespective of whether or not you get in, I just felt that the questions in that particular application really help you refine your thought process for your SOP.
Okay. So maybe I'll try to get that question list either from you or from the website.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. On the topic of SOPs, so is there something that you feel that there should be a particular flow or a particular pattern that one should keep in mind, or some things that one should avoid that you would have realized while writing your own?
What you should avoid is, number one, citing incidents from your childhood.
Yeah.
Uh,
So in
because
astronomy, it's like everyone writes, I got interested in astronomy when I looked at the sky when I was a child.
I know,
So
but we're from India. We have a lot of pollution. Who like there are no
yeah,
stars in the sky unless
yeah,
you really are like determined and go to the outskirts.
yeah. Even if one did, and even if one was got genuinely interested in astronomy because of that, one should
Yeah,
not write very general things. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel it should be very specific to you, so that you got like 1,000 words or so, and you should like present yourself in a way that makes you stand out
I
amongst
agree.
others.
Yeah, yeah. It also like I feel people see whether you're being cogent in your response over there, and whether uh, you are able to articulate your thoughts in a good manner. So all these things also matter apart from the story that you're putting forth.
Mhm.
So in my case, I did resort to some like one Vivekananda quote in my first paragraph,
Mhm.
but that is because I literally like I spent 1 week thinking how should I start this SOP, how should I start this SOP, and then
Yeah,
I didn't get any other inspiration,
yeah.
so that's what I put there.
Mm.
But
What was the
yeah,
quote?
if you can avoid it, avoid it.
Like, what was the quote?
uh, I don't even remember honestly. It was like
Okay.
I yeah, I shouldn't say this, but I think I googled list of
Okay.
Vivekananda quotes and chose the 11th one so that it won't be the most obvious one.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's some
but don't do that.
deep preparation.
Yeah, like I don't know. I thought for 1 week just didn't get a starting line for it.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
makes sense.
apart from that first paragraph, I sort of went like, what was the work that I had done, and that series of personal incidents that led to me getting to medical imaging. Then so that was my lead up to medical imaging. Then I sort of transitioned to which groups work in medical imaging in the university I was working at, and why I wanted to work with them.
Mhm.
So that was the sort of flow I went with.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
as you talk about like when you search for universities and groups where you would want to apply to, so for in your case, it was like clear that you had a particular research idea or a bigger picture in mind. So
Mhm.
after that, how did you proceed? Like, did you ask someone for advice, or in general, how should one proceed when choosing the research groups and universities they're applying to?
Uh, so one way is to just do like a search across all the, I don't know, top 50 universities in the world or something like that,
Mhm.
and that's still a good way. Another way is to talk to professors in your university who are working in related fields.
Mhm.
uh, like one thing that can happen more like often than we actually think is our undergraduate advisor knowing someone abroad who is looking to hire. Like
Yeah,
I have seen this happen.
yeah,
So a lot of people actually never approach their undergraduate advisors asking for such connections,
yeah.
but it can happen and it has happened to people I
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, because I
So
think they've also done if they have done their PhD or postdoc abroad, or they have collaborators outside, so they might be
yeah,
able to connect you. Yeah.
not even collaborators. Like right now we are here. A few of us few of the people we know may end up becoming professors over there.
Mhm. Yeah, true.
So that may also happen. We might have played, I don't know, some ultimate frisbee with them some weekend or something, and
Yeah.
like we may be able to reach out to them. So it just happens. Uh, And in my case also it happened, actually, not ultimate frisbee, but my guide had a collaborator here at USC, and he sort of connected me with that person. And I so that particular professor actually contacted me 15 days before the deadline for the application.
Oh wow. Okay.
So things like that can happen. So that's one route you should definitely take. Yeah.
Moving on to another aspect of the grad process, which is LORs, or the letters of recommendations. So I think a lot of people have this doubt that who should they be asking LORs from, and especially in electrical engineering, what's the scene like? How many LORs do you need? What kind of LORs do you think that grad schools prefer?
Typically it's three, and they definitely prefer LORs from people who you have done research with. Uh, so it's like if you have worked under some professors who can vouch for your, you know, research skills or analytical skills, that definitely helps. It helps even more if you have worked for an extended period of time with one person, and he or she can cite many instances where you have contributed to a particular problem. Uh, so yeah, that's one thing that I would say people can keep in mind, that working with one person or working on one problem for a long time can actually really help, because that just strengthens your LOR, because the person who's writing the letter just has many more instances to draw on, rather
Yeah.
than you just shuffling between three research projects with three
Mm-hmm.
professors to get three LORs.
Mm-hmm.
If you can work for a like focus in a focused manner with one person, then you'll have like one strong LOR and maybe two not so strong LORs,
Mm-hmm.
rather than three not so strong LORs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in my case, I had one with the professor who I was working with for 3 years. That was
Okay.
my strongest LOR. And
Mm-hmm.
apart from that, I had one collaborator of my professor who I worked with for a few weeks, and uh, that person also gave me a good LOR, luckily.
Mm-hmm.
And the third person I took an LOR from was a professor with whom I did like three courses, and I did really well in all of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I've also realized that it's like my personal, I don't know, you could say opinion or speculation, that the grad school admissions, they really look for, rather than how many skills you have, that how well you can handle the overall research journey for even one question, like how did you overcome the challenges, how did you learn new skills? Because once they see that you have that, then learning another new skill is probably not that big a deal. So yeah, I think it's important to highlight this journey in both your SOP, LORs.
Yeah, to solve any research problem, you need to sort of have perseverance.
Mhm.
That matters.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's I guess fine to take LORs from people who you have just done courses with and not research.
Yeah, it's fine,
Mhm.
but like not all three, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess 3 LORs makes it quite difficult for people who have just applying out of their bachelors.
Mm.
Yeah, to have like 3 people who they have done research with is not that common, right?
Yeah, it's not.
Huh. So while choosing universities, like how does one decide how many universities to apply for versus how many safe universities to keep? Uh, what would you suggest for your department?
I applied for 9 universities, out of which I considered two to be safe.
Mhm.
The only advice I give with respect to choosing universities is not to rule yourself out of any university. I think that's the biggest mistake which people make. They say, "Oh my God, I'm not applying to MIT. I'm never getting into MIT," because, as I said, it's a black box. No one knows who
Yeah.
gets in, and like things might just work. It's just weird how things work. You may get into it. Like
Yeah.
when I applied to Caltech, I never thought I was getting into Caltech.
Mhm.
Like it just happened. So
Yeah. You apply, you might not get, but to get, you have to apply. So yeah.
exactly. So like never ever rule yourself out. Always apply to ambitious universities.
Mhm. And also like have some backup options in case.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Did you have any interviews for your grad school?
I did. I had about 4 interviews, and I think
Oh
I
wow.
cleared
Okay.
two of them. Uh, so I had like in fact the particular group I'm working with, I had an interview with them. I had
Mhm.
actually had a 2 hour long interview with them.
Okay.
So
What
it
was
was
that
quite
like?
It was quite stressful. I was asked to prepare a presentation on my research
Mm-hmm.
for like 45 minutes, after which I had to present why I thought I would be a good fit for their lab.
Okay.
And I had to go through one of the research papers and sort of summarize it in one slide as well. It was
Wow.
supposed to take like 1 hour or so, but it ended up taking 2 hours.
That's the most like thorough and stressful interview I've ever heard. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it was quite stressful.
yeah. Wow. Okay. And how for the other places?
For the other ones, mostly like so I had four. One I just described. Another one, it was just a simple chat, and the prof just asked me to go through one of their research papers, and I did that. With And then I had this one interview with a group at MIT, where the entire group sort of decided to interview me. So there were like 5 people sitting in a conference room,
Mhm.
and yeah, that didn't go so well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is,
Uh,
do they ask questions about your research or like?
so uh, it depends. If they're going to ask you specific questions about your research, or if they're going to ask you to present, they'll let you know beforehand. They'll tell you
Mhm.
prepare a presentation. Otherwise, it's just going to be a very general talk about what research you have done, what kind of a person you are, like why are you looking to apply to this group. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely under one of those two categories.
Okay.
Never in between.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another question that a lot of people have is that while applying for grad schools, do they need to email the professors beforehand? Does that help in any way?
Doesn't hurt.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't see any harm in emailing people beforehand. In fact, the interview that I got at Caltech was because I had emailed the professor in like February or something.
Okay.
And then 3 days later, he got back to me saying, "Yeah, let's have an interview." Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have been here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Did you get your CV or SOP reviewed by any faculty members? Or if so, then do you have any suggestion that, do you remember any suggestion that they mentioned?
So I sent a part of my CV for review to my undergraduate advisor, the part which was relevant to our work,
Mhm.
and he generally told me that uh, like how I had prepared my CV was in terms of how people do it for like an industrial intern or something like that, where there's a very general format. You put your grades and then you
Yeah.
put some relevant courses, and then blah blah blah, PORs and this and that. But he told me to sort of prioritize which information I want to put first, because uh, I want them to read it in that order. So I first, in my final version, I first put uh, a vision statement, a vision statement for my research,
Mhm.
which was sort of like a short, like a one-line version of my SOP. And then I wrote my grades, obviously, and then I immediately after that I wrote which publications I had, because that would have the maximum impact.
Mhm.
Uh, and then I started describing my work,
Okay.
and details like standardized test scores or I don't know, some TAs, PORs, all these came later.
Okay. Also, on that note, like how important are publications in your department uh, for like getting into a top school?
I think they are quite important,
Mhm.
because they are one way of proving that you have done good work in the past. But even if you don't have publications, what I've seen is a good LOR can actually work wonders.
Mhm.
Like I've seen it happen in people who didn't have any publications, but they've gotten into amazing schools because of good LORs.
Okay. So
So
the
it
research was
really
good, but it didn't get into the publication stage yet.
exactly. But because a particular individual vouched for this person's ability, he got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this whole process of grad school application and all is super tiring. You put in so much effort for each college, and then uh, the probability of being selected is still quite low. So how was your experience with the process after you applied? Like, how did you go through, uh, each day awaiting your results and stuff? And what advice do you have in general for people who are in that phase?
Right. So even before what happened after applying, I'll sort of take a small detour.
Mhm.
I think for me, what helped was before applying was two things. One, I sort of planned it. I think I planned it really well, where I gave my standardized test really early. So I had a few things to lesser things to sort out in the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
So that made things really easy for me. And the second thing was, uh, I was clear that I wanted to do research by that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just did not apply for placements. Like taking up a job if I don't get an admit was not an option for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought if I don't get an admit, I will go to some research lab in India and just work over there for one more year and apply again. That's what I thought.
Okay.
So I mean, since I knew that that was the only path for me, I just went along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And after after submitting the applications, also fortunately I didn't have too much stress because I said I actually had one sort of confirmed admit a couple of weeks before the
Okay.
application deadline.
Okay.
So yeah. Uh, but apart from that, uh, yeah, it's
Did you
I
have
think
those endless days looking at Grad Cafe and looking whether any acceptances have come out? For those who don't know, Grad Cafe is a website. It's a horrible website where you get
where
to know
people
whether,
post.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did actually. I mean, I still don't know how does it work. Do they really? I mean, do they give admissions in a rolling basis, or do they give them once and then there are no seats left?
It's a mystery, I think.
Yeah,
I think
because
they give rejections in bulk,
huh,
but I think even that is in like batches. Like you first give rejection to this 100 people, then maybe next 50, next 20. Yeah.
I see. Yeah,
That's what I think. Yeah.
I would just say don't read too much into your rejections.
Yeah.
Yeah, but celebrate your victories. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that's all. Yeah.
Okay, and I have 5% left.
Okay. Just give a one line. So any final best wishes for those who are watching?
Yeah, sure. So for anyone who's watching, just plan well and be clear about what you want to do. I think that'll give the best results.
Okay. All the best.